Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Way to Value podcast presented by Design Advisors. I am excited to have our quiet partner, Tom Johnson, in the hot seat today. Tom is our financial guru, more behind the scenes, so I'm happy to get him on camera in front of everyone today to talk about the role of CFOs and financials in growth, scaling, and potentially exiting organizations. Tom's been a CFO for 20 plus years. He's lived the exit life. He grew several companies, but most recently took a company from a value of about 25 million and exited at 165 million. So excited to get his thoughts today on financial metrics and how CFOs help companies grow. Tom, how the heck are you? Glad to get you off the golf course for a bit.
I'm doing great, Dale. Thanks for having me. It's great to be back in Greenville. It's been a little while. This is my home away from home, or something like that. But looking forward to spending a few minutes and talking about the most important thing, which is financial excellence in companies.
Bean counting is what we call it when we're not in that world. Right. So let's first just get started. A lot of the companies I've worked with in the past don't really have a CFO. They may have a bookkeeper, an accountant, something of that nature. But why is a CFO so important to a growing company?
Well, I think it's mostly strategic, and I think you can have a controller, and I think that's the difference between a controller who counts the beans, produces financial reports. A CFO is one who's going to take it a step beyond that and look at the company, look at the capital structure of the company, look at how do you grow a company, and do you have the right capital structure to do that, and bring those pieces together that enable the company to grow. And so the CFO position's much more high-level strategic than an accountant or a controller.
And when you start talking about these high-level strategic positions, it could be a marketing person, an HR person, a CFO. When should a business truly start to consider bringing that position on, or at least looking at outsourcing it or bringing in a fractional CFO? At what point is the right time to bring that resource on board?
That's a great question. I'm not sure there's one answer for that. I think every company would be better off if they could bring on a CFO earlier. Not all companies can afford to do that. So there is a lot of fractional CFO activity out there now because companies realize they need somebody to look a little more strategically at their finances, but they maybe can't afford it on a full-time basis. I would recommend, if a company has the capital to do it, that you bring on a CFO a little bit ahead of when you think you can afford to do that. And for different companies, that's going to be a different point in time.
Okay. And from a CFO's perspective or seat, what financial or operational red flags do you typically see that keep companies from achieving their growth targets?
So interestingly enough, this one, I guess there's a couple things, but one is not really a financial answer. It's a people answer. Companies aren't ready to scale when they're dependent on their owner and when they don't have a management team in place that can truly grow the business. I think that's first and foremost the most important thing. Everybody wants to grow, but if growth is dependent on one person, there's kind of a governor on how fast you can grow. The second thing that is a financial answer is, what's your capital structure? And growth is great, but not all growth is profitable growth. And if you don't have the capital to grow profitably, to get past those periods of time when maybe you're outspending the revenue that you're generating while you're trying to grow, if you don't have that capital, you're gonna grow yourself out of business. So knowing your capital structure, and then if you've got some money so that you can grow it ahead of all profitability, fine, you can go ahead and do that. If you don't, then you got to focus just on profitable growth.
It warms my heart to hear a CFO say you win with your people. It just shows HR is the most important position in an organization. Interesting that you say, profitable growth. I think there's a misconception amongst everyone that growth and profitability is this straight line up and to the right. when really it's you grow a little bit and then you have to invest in something, people, places, things, and you dip, and then you kind of go up
Yep.
and you dip. And maybe talk about as a CFO, how do you manage the depth and duration of those dips
Yep.
so you are maybe still moving up and to the right, but not in a linear fashion?
Yeah, and that's what I'm talking about with capital structure. And capital structure is just what's your access to equity, what money that you know, maybe retained earnings or money you or any other owners have put into the business. And then also what's your access to debt. A business that's going through a lot of growth, and I've been in businesses that have gone through you know, tremendous growth. It's more of a stair. It's you're taking steps to the stair. And we spend, as a CFO, we spend a lot of time forecasting what's that growth look like, and then what does the profitability that comes with that growth also look like? And do we have access to capital to carry us through those periods of growth? Because there will be some periods of growth where you're spending more than you're in additional expense than you're generating an additional revenue. But if you can forecast that out and get comfortable that, yeah, we'll get over that hump, and then it starts to get profitable, then it's just a matter of looking at, do we have access to the capital to do it? If you don't, then you shouldn't be going ahead and trying to grow it that fast. But if you do, then do it. Go for it.
Yeah, and the stair steps, to me, it sounds like, you know, you're being intentional and doing it by design
Right.
versus leaving it to chance and just hoping that it starts making more money down the road.
Exactly. And
What is there a, you know, skipping ahead a little bit to the exit process and there, are there certain financial metrics that buyers care about more than others?
yeah, there's, I think all buyers are interested in how much profit you make. So EBITDA, you'll see thrown around a lot, but it's just, you know, it's a measurement of how much cash is your business generating. That's the most important single metric. And I guess just in general, buyers love predictability and consistency in the past and in the present. But then what they're buying is the hope of growth in the future. And so buyers love to see that you've been profitable and growing profitably in the past because they can get comfortable with buying that. But then what they're also going to need to know is what's our opportunity to grow it beyond where it is today, because they're not buying it just to get an average return on what you make today. They're buying it so that 10 years down the road, they can resell it for a lot more than they bought it for.
Yeah, and to me, that's kind of where everything merges as far as having a CFO in that strategy piece. They can forecast, put a plan together, and show a buyer, hey, here's where we're growing and here's how we're going to get here. Similar to a forecast for HR and people, right? Hey, we're currently at 50 people, we're going to 100, and here's how we're going to bring them in and when and where and why. To me, a CFO can do that same thing with the financial numbers.
That's exactly it. And every buyer out there is going to go through that process when they decide to buy you. It's great if you can present that to them with a lot of substance behind it to say, yeah, we're at 10 million now, but over the next 5 years with the things we have in place, we can be 25 million, and here's what the profit looks like then as opposed to what it looks like now. And at the end of the day, you know, EBITDA, operating earnings, whatever you want to call them, it's all about cash. How much cash do you generate? And that's what any buyer is looking for.
We had our good friend Paul Calley on, and he's always, his saying, and I remember it still, is cash is king, cash is king, cash is king. And he always wanted a certain number in the bank of cash, just because he says that's your fuel to your business, that's your fuel for growth.
Yep.
You've been in this game a long time, many different industries. Maybe what's one financial mistake you see companies making during the growth phase, and how can they avoid it?
So one that I've seen multiple times is we talked a little bit earlier about profitable growth. Companies get focused completely on growth. I want to grow, and I grow, and I grow, and I want to be twice the size that I am 3 years from now. And they forget that all growth is not good growth. It has to be profitable growth. And if as I was saying before, in the short term, it's not going to be profitable growth. You've got to have the capital so that you can get through that time period. I've seen several cases where businesses focus completely on growth, actually start to generate losses from that growth, and don't have the capital to sustain, so they grow themselves out of business. And I think that's probably the mistake that kills a lot of businesses that could otherwise be great businesses because they have the capability of growing, but they don't focus on profitable growth.
So a business owner hearing that, and I can't wait to get into this topic because we've had several guests on and opinions vary widely on this next topic. We need capital to grow. I may not have it, but there's ways to get it. So you can go take outside capital, venture capitalists, investment bankers, whatever. What are your thoughts, again, as a CFO who's been in this game a long time, about companies taking outside money? Good, bad? Should they try it as soon as possible, as late as possible?
I'd say it depends. As a general rule, I'd say wait as long as you can to take outside capital. I think it depends on what industry, what business you're in. I worked with, earlier in my career, with technology companies who were writing new software. That's a business where you have a lot of expense up front, and then if it works, you generate huge margins later. So it kind of forces you in an early stage to take outside capital. And that makes sense for that business. Most other businesses, I think you lose a little bit of discipline when you take outside capital and you start to grow just for the sake of growth without focusing on how do I make sure this is profitable growth. And so, I think for 80% of the businesses out there, I would defer taking outside capital as long as possible, and if possible at all, never take it. And just the discipline of watching every dollar is something that leads to more success than growth at all costs.
How does, when you take that money, you obviously invite other opinions into the room now. As a CFO, strategically looking at the financials, how does it change maybe how you operate financially? Does it, when you take that outside money and now have someone else kind of involved in the business?
I think what happens is that you get differing opinions, different pressures on the most basic questions, like how are we going to grow, how fast are we going to grow, things like that. Typically, outside investors, true venture investors, when they put money in, they want you to grow as fast as possible. And the current ownership, the management may look at it and say, well, I don't know that makes sense. We get a little too far out of control that way. And so then you start to get some arguments at the ownership level. Makes it really difficult for a CFO if you've got the multiple owners with different kind of short-term and long-term strategic goals. And I think, not to get into the whole venture capital world, but one of the important things when you do take outside capital is to structure that deal so that the current ownership maintains as much control as possible, because differing opinions will kill a business.
What's a common myth? Now, I'm interested to hear your answer on this one, because again, the financial world, I'm kind of new to it. I always have understood the basics. I think anyone that's in an organization has to understand the basic financial picture of the company, how your role, how your department impacts those financials, all that stuff. But as I dig deeper into it, maybe what's a common myth that business owners have about scaling and growing that maybe from a CFO's perspective you don't agree with?
So I'll go back to what Paul told you. Cash is king. And I think most owners don't focus on cash. They focus on growth and growth alone. And so the myth is that a successful business is one that's growing. And, growth is a necessary component of a successful business, but it's not the only component. And growth without focusing on cash will kill a small business. So I think that I think every owner should get up every morning thinking about cash, because most businesses die from lack of cash. They just run out, even if they're growing.
Is there a magical formula? Is it 2x expenses? In personal financial, they always say you should have 6 months expenses saved up in cash in case something hits. Is there a similar truism in the business world?
I think it depends on the industry, depends on the business. We talked about those stairs that you're going to go up when you're going through growth. If your business is more capital intensive, like software development in the early days, or you're some kind of manufacturer that needs big, huge, heavy equipment, those steps of growth require more capital in a short period of time. And those are the ones that, if you're not careful, you can get yourself in a whole world of trouble by growing too fast and then go ahead and overextending yourself. So there isn't one simple rule of thumb. It depends on your business, on your industry.
Okay. So we've started a company, we've grown a company, and now we're getting calls about selling the company. Mm-hmm. Maybe walk us through what should a CFO's role be in that process? We'll start there, and then we'll kind of deep dive a little more into the acquisition process.
I can tell you that, and for me personally, because I've been through that process multiple times, the CFO is the guy running that process. And it's very important from a business owner's point of view to run that process. You're going to get calls, and if you just answer the phone and let a random buyer run the process for you of taking you through and making you an offer and doing all that, if you're not proactively running the process from your point of view, then you're going to end up with a bad result. And the CFO is the guy that should run that process. He should be, he brings in the other people as necessary. He's the one presenting all the financial information, presenting the forecasts, bringing in the other people to fill in the blanks of, okay, here's how we're going to grow. So I'm going to bring in our VP of sales, et cetera. But the CFO has absolutely got to be the guy, jockeying that thing.
And what are some red flags that smart investors spot in financials that maybe lower the value or can kill the deal outright?
Well, the first thing is if they see a lot of volatility or inconsistency in your past financials. If numbers are from year to year are jumping all over the place, you're real profitable one year and then you lost a bunch of money the next year. It means one of two things. It means that you don't have a firm grasp on what your real financial results are in any given time period, and that's a huge red flag for a potential buyer. Or the second thing it could mean is that you're in a highly cyclical business that changes in real short term, and that's a bit of a red flag as well. It doesn't, some investors will buy into cyclical businesses, but they tend to value them lower because there's just isn't enough certainty in the cash flows that are going to come.
I know at By Design, we spend a lot of time with our clients' financials, ensuring that they can tell a story.
Right.
Can you explain maybe why the financials being able to tell a story is important and maybe what story it should tell?
Right. And I think there's a couple of things there. One is you're trying to tell the story of our operating systems are great. We have a full handle on the profitability of our business. And we can show in the past that we've consistently grown our business profitably. So that's story number one. What you also then want to be able to do is show, here's the opportunity for growth in the future, and here's how, using the same financial metrics that we use today, I can show you how I can grow it in the future, or you can grow it if you're going to buy this business. And I think that information, and in my experience, has come totally from the CFO and his team. I think that if you don't have a great handle on your past, nobody's going to believe what you're forecasting in the future. And so that's going to really hurt the value that any buyer is going to want to pay.
In my experience, a lot of companies have the financials looking backwards.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really see a lot that have that growth strategy going forward.
Yeah.
Should it be more common? If so, how does someone go about doing that?
Yeah, to manage your business, absolutely. I think every business should be forecasting out multiple years. Now, the further out you get, the little more guesswork is involved. But, and the businesses that I've been involved with, we would forecast out generally 3 years. And it won't surprise you to hear that one of the things that we focused mostly on was cash in those 3 years. Okay, so we're going to grow the business. We're going to spend money on this. We're going to grow it by 30% over these next 3 years. Here's the profits we're going to make on it. And here's what we're doing with that cash. So here's our cash balance, literally month to month to month. The last business I was with, real estate company, we basically forecasted cash week by week.
Oh, wow.
Out for a year. And then after that, it was month by month. And I think, any buyer, if you can show that level of detail that, we can support these numbers and we look at them every month, a buyer's going to get comfort that these guys know what they're doing. And the numbers I'm looking at they're real. And that's going to drive the value up.
I have seen financial sheets. Some are very simple and easy to read and follow. Some are very complex and different types of businesses and different cost allocations, and things can just get crazy. What should they be? Simple, complex?
Depends on the reader. Internally within your financial group, we tended to get into a lot of detail, had fairly detailed projections. What we were publishing internally to the executive management, or if you're I've been in other places where you have a board of directors, what you're publishing to them should be as simple as possible. It should focus just on what are your key metrics and what are the key results that they need to look at, and so that they can tell, are we meeting our goals? Are we getting better are we getting better or worse? And not get lost in the detail. So the way we present when we go through and actually get ready to sell, we did both. We present initially at a high level so that people don't get too hung up on the details. But then as we whittle the number of prospective buyers down and people want to really understand what makes up those summary financials, we would show them all that detail. And they would, it depends on who your potential buyer is, but a lot of them will have their own analysts who will love to get into that detail. And they want to make sure that these high-level numbers that you're showing your board of directors and now a potential buyer are supported by all this detail below.
As a non-financial guru like myself, I kind of feel like the three that I need to know about in the operations HR world is cash on hand, profit, and revenue. Those would be the three I would pick. Mm-hmm. Is that right, wrong, indifferent? Three good ones? Are there three better ones?
So, yeah, I think cash is cash on hand and cash projection, I would add to it. And then, the revenue and, profit would be more important than revenue in my book, but profit and revenue are the other two most important. So.
Okay. If somebody's out there listening today, what's one piece of advice you would give them that they could do today to make their business maybe more attractive from a financial point of view?
Well, I think every business owner should look at their business as an asset that someday is going to be sold. And they should start thinking about it in terms of what would a potential buyer want in this asset that I have. So start planning for a sale, even though you may not sell for 30 years. Start assuming that somebody else is going to want to buy your business. and that you at some point are going to sell it. Because the principles of being very intentional, putting a great management team in place, diversifying your suppliers, diversifying your customers, doing all of those things, they're great for your sale value, but they're just great for day-to-day business. So start running your business like you're going to sell it tomorrow, even though you may not sell it for 30 years.
Yeah, and one of the best things I've heard you say, it was in our very first episode, the best time to start this planning was 5 years ago.
Right.
The next best time is
today. Yeah. It's most business owners don't think that way, and it's understandable because you're just focused on how do I get through today? How do I make payroll? How do I grow the business? But if you step back from it and really look at it as how do I build this business for value to another owner, that's going to lead you down the path that's going to get you the most profit and the most value eventually.
Well, good. Tom, thanks for your time. If anybody out there wants to have a conversation with us, have Tom take a look at your financials, please just reach out. The guy has a special talent for numbers. We'd love to have a conversation with you and see if we can help you out. Tom, thanks for coming off the golf course. I know you probably have a tee time soon you have to get to. We'll let you get to it, but thanks for your time. And till next time, everybody, thanks.